Yinz means like you ones, you wins. It's like, hey, what are you guys doing? No. In Pittsburgh, it's, hey, what are Yinz doing in that? That's how it goes.
Welcome to Game of Nodes, a weekly podcast on the cosmos from independent validator teams. Hello and welcome to Game of Nerds, a weekly podcast on the cosmos from independent and very tired and somewhat hungover validator teams. I think these lads are still recovering from, you did some boozing in eth.Denver and it's like at altitude or something, and all I saw in the group chat was complaints about hangovers.
That's basically that's basically sums up the whole trip.
It was just like, I was like, how's it going? And there was, I think I got a picture sent of like Schultzy in one morning having like what looked like a kind of hangover smoothie. And Noel was like asleep on the edge of the sofa. And I was like, okay, so everybody's hungover. That's kind of the vibe I'm getting from eth.Denver. It's like, how are the talks? Crickets.
Didn't make it.
Well, and that was at like 11 in the morning too. That was a hungover picture, like 11 in the morning. We're both just like,
I know.
Well, you know the rules. It's going to be bad till 3 in the evening, right? That's the you know stuff is serious if it goes past 3 in the afternoon. But other than that, everything's fair game.
The first 2 days felt like a week, like because I don't know, was it the first night? But the defund guys came over at like midnight or 12:30 one night. We drank till like 3:30. And just in our house, and then next thing I know, it felt like it was 4 days later, and then it just kind of continued. But yeah, that pretty much sums it up. And then Null, I think we were together for 5 days. I think the total time we were actually together with him and I both being awake at the same time was like maybe a day and a half.
Just very, very little.
Literally, like
was he just jet lagged, or did he just?
He was really jet lagged. Yeah,
Null doing Null.
No, he was really jet lagged. We were up late, which I think was early for him, and then he would go, it was 3 or something, go to bed, and then I think one time we were out somewhere and it was like 3 p.m. and all I get is we all get a DM like, how does the coffee machine work? It was like 3:30. I was like, perfect. I was like, good morning. How are you?
Well, that was the day that he went to the rave, right? I guess
that's
there was
right. I forgot about that. Yeah.
So we all went to the Cosmos Peak event, I want to say, and after a couple hours, Usurper and I are like, all right, well, I think it's about time to take off, whatever. Where's Noel? We couldn't find him. We did a couple rounds around the bar, couldn't find him anywhere. And it's like, he must have taken off already. So we take off. And then that morning at like 2 a.m, he texts all of us and he's like, hey, what's the code to the house? Or 3
He's
in the
locked
morning.
out. Yeah.
But semi-fortunately, the lock to the house was behind a screen. So he just like put his hand through the loose screen and unlocked it and walked in. And then for the rest of the trip, he was all paranoid about there not being a lock on the house because there wasn't a lock on that house.
There was literally no house.
Wow, that's fucked up.
Yep. All our Cerberus in danger.
That's kind of like we were at a conference last year, and some guys at the table next to us were like, "So what do you guys do?" And I was like, "Get the fuck out of here! We need to get the fuck out of here." And then Jake just gets up and is like, "Yeah, we're here for a crypto conference." And I was like, "Okay, cool. Great, we're going to get murdered in our sleep." He's like, it's fine, you're super paranoid. It's like, Jake, we're within sight of where we're staying. We now have to decide whether we're either going to walk to the door of the place where we're staying or we go in a completely different direction purely to throw these guys off. And he's like, you're overreacting, walk straight to the door.
It's like, here we are.
And I was like, okay, we're definitely getting murdered now. We're definitely getting murdered. And everybody was super chill about it. And then when we were upstairs, and everybody else was like, oh shit, actually, Frey's right. We need to wipe our ledgers.
Oh yeah, maybe.
like just on the off chance that lads with hammers are coming. And I was like, well, it's not even like we've got much. Well, most of us, it's not even like we've got much money. So it's just like,
you don't have to worry about that anymore, right? They're like,
especially this benefit of bear market, right?
Yeah,
they can bust in your house and what's going to happen, right?
Right.
Just
they feel bad for us.
Yeah, they're like,
have some shit coins.
They're
I can
Cosmos
send you
validators.
4 million Chihuahua, but that's all I got. I can't even send you Cerberus anymore.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, you could clean me out of a few Geno, but it's gonna be like $50. So,
they're Cosmos validators. Go pick on someone else.
Yeah, I always find like those kind of like rave type things at like a conference are a bit of a weird vibe, and doubly so at a crypto conference. You're just like, yeah, I was kind of just happy being at a bar actually, because I'm not really just. It's not a happening dance floor other than ironically, it's like a wedding dance floor at best, but you know,
wedding dance floor.
Yeah, do you know what I mean? Like a wedding, where everyone's kind of like, well, let's have some laughs.
Well,
You
and
know,
this was
like,
hosted by the Milady NFTs, I guess. It was a Milady NFT rave.
what's a Milady NFT?
I'm not sure what a Milady is, but it's an NFT. Let's see if I can find it.
Probably OpenSea or something.
Tell me that doesn't sound just insane levels of awkward.
It sounds quite awkward. Like, I'll be honest. I'm not sure I could ever show my face in public if I said that I owned something like a Milady NFT.
That's so
But
funny.
hey, maybe it's because I'm a boomer and I don't understand what's cool anymore. But then that has always been true. So that's also fine. So in conclusion, then eth.Denver basically an excuse for a piss up. Everything else secondary.
Yeah, I think
days.
so. Yeah, the Cosmos stuff. There was a lot of Cosmos stuff before I think we got there, which seems to be like a recurring thing where like eth.Denver gets announced and then nothing happens in the Cosmos, and then I already have plans, and then oh shit, here's 5 days beforehand where all these things happen. Right, like it's usually last minute, or at least it seems like it's last minute. I don't know. And so we saw some of that. Got to see like there's some couple Juno events which were good, and like the DAO thing that Jake threw on. That was pretty good. There was the was it Shared Security Summit? That was called? It was Shared Security Summit. I missed some of that. These guys were there in the morning. I was there in the afternoon, which was good. I got to meet the Skip guys, which was nice. And there was a lot of like modular blockchain talk in the afternoon. It was like over and over. But there were some good topics in there. And yeah, I mean, I was just kind of looking for people who I either knew or were like reaching out to. You know what I mean? So that was pretty good. We went to an Aptos thing on Saturday. I didn't even make it to eth.Denver. Literally, I didn't even make it to one single thing. It was like everything else. Yeah, I didn't.
Not even one
You
thing.
didn't.
I didn't go to one thing. Yeah, I mean, I didn't because I want to kind of walk through at least like I usually like walking through the swag booths. You know what I mean? Like just seeing what's around there. And these guys were like, it was a waste of time. So I didn't even make it over that. So a few good after night party things, and you know, and honestly, it was worthwhile. It was worth going just to hang out with Kingnodes crew plus extended friends and family type of thing. And then we took a couple days out of Denver. Little altitude sickness type stuff, and you know, back home.
A little bit of altitude sickness.
That's it. That's all
A couple
it
of
was.
beers, bit of altitude sickness.
Yeah,
Like, oh
basically.
god, I'm just feeling so altitude sick this morning.
It's a mix of things.
It's definitely what's happened. Like the one person who hasn't drunk is like, huh? What? Huh?
Yeah.
What?
So I wish you were there. It would have been nice to get the four of us together next time. But
They have
good reasons.
They talk about that on the train. You know, when you take the train from Denver to California IA.
Yeah.
They talk about the drink. They're like, don't have unless you want the the Zeph. What they have the Rocky cocktail or something. They're like, don't have a drink when the train is passing through the high pass because you'll get smashed off one drink and you have a right or headache by the time.
Really?
We were going with a couple
train
guys.
tunnel is it 8,000 feet, something like that? Or it's a really rememberable number which I haven't remembered. It's either like like 6,600 feet roughly, or it's 8,800 feet. The tunnel.
Yeah.
We were at 10,000 feet.
So maybe it was 8,000 feet then, because you come out of the tunnel,
Sure.
from the Denver side of the Rockies, and then you literally come out of the tunnel and a ski lift passes over the top of the train immediately.
That's cool.
Well, there's ski lifts everywhere over there, so
Yeah, because it's a
doesn't
ski
mean
resort.
anything.
I can't remember which one. I want to say Fraser.
Yeah, Breckenridge is at 9,600. That's the base of that, and we were up a little bit from that and everything else. Yeah, a couple of us were feeling it though.
That's like what 2,800 meters or something. It's pretty high.
More even, I think.
3,000 meters.
Wow. Okay. Shit. That's
3,000 meters.
That's like glacier height.
Yeah,
That's like summer snow height.
It was a lot, and it was so dry. Like trying to sleep, you could only I got a bloody nose every night for one thing, and that's not fun. For two, trying to sleep, and because I'm trying to avoid a bloody nose, I'm breathing out my mouth, and then my mouth would dry out, and then you have to do the whole thing where you swirl your tongue around to try to generate just a little bit of saliva. Man, all night long, each night, it was tough. It was tough.
It was.
It just sounds like a bunch of
It is
in like early middle adulthood, just like complaining about mild ailments for 3 days.
My right knee and my hip are killing me.
Yeah,
and the pillows were really tough.
Pillows are rough.
Yeah,
the water's too soft.
Just got a little bit of eczema.
Goddamn eczema.
This humidity. To fit right in, that'd have been great. I was literally complaining about that earlier today. So, happy days.
Yep.
So yeah, gutted to have missed that. But what else has been happening? So yeah, doxed. I look terrible and sound terrible because I've just had a child. So and that's also why I'm not in why I'm not in eth.denver now. That was last week. Why I'm not in anywhere now other than here, and was changing babies before. So what the fuck have I missed? What's been happening in the cosmos or in anywhere? Like what's been happening? I've literally not seen any. The government could have fallen. I barely would have known. Like it's just been a long tunnel. The last week has just been a long tunnel of coffee and midnight changes.
I don't know. We were all kind of out for the last 2 weeks, so I don't even know what else the hell happened.
Just that altitude sickness.
Just the altitude sickness.
It really does take
Price.
you.
We just keep watching the prices; they keep falling, and we're just kind of sitting around. And
Yeah, every time you think it's at ATL, right? That is
Yeah.
the one thing. That's the one thing I have been paying attention to. I'm like, ooh,
Ooh,
I
hey.
keep downsizing our servers, and the price keeps coming down and making it unprofitable. Just like, what are you
It's
doing?
funny.
Yeah.
Yeah, we've gone from being invited to fancy cocktail receptions from our account manager to just not being contacted at all. Just quietly got You text them, they're like, "Who's this?
Like this guy's got no money.
New phone. Are you a client of ours? No,
Yeah.
we're not really sure about that.
Crypto client? Yeah.
Yeah, it's not a growth area for us.
Right.
It's not a priority at the moment.
Aye.
Yeah.
Well, Cerberus shut down on Monday. I think Cerberus shut down on Monday.
Yeah, we were in the car.
Yeah, we were.
Yeah, Polka. I think Polka. I saw PolkaTube post, or maybe it was Polka's intern post on Twitter. Like they got the last TX.
Yeah, the last transaction. It's
Yeah.
pretty good.
It's a shame they didn't IBC that token, and then they could have had the last transaction as an NFT.
There you go. Yeah, that shut
Yeah.
down Monday. It's over.
Dream's over.
Dream's over.
It deserves to die. So fair enough.
Well, I think it's pretty interesting though, because I think this is the official first chain that's being shut down. Because there's even chains from like 2018, 2019 that are still running, like Straight Edge. Straight Edge is still running, and I bet you guys don't even know what that is.
Nope.
Yeah, it was like, I think it was a chain. Sunny was part of it, I think, where the goal was to create a bridge between the Cosmos and Polkadot, I want to say. And that thing's still running. It has no developers. It just has like 10 validators running it for no reason. So
Really?
I think that's the first
Is
chain
it
to go
even
down.
is it even IBC'd?
No, it's not.
It's just sat chugging away.
Just making blocks in the corner.
Just making blocks. Yep, exactly right.
That's what it's
Playing with Lego in the corner,
It's
just quietly, just minding his own business.
Yeah.
Fair enough. You got to respect that. So if it's not IBC though, that's the thing. It's just like YOLO, whatever.
Yep.
Oh, yeah. Ramen said in the chat, dead chain DAO. So I am vaguely aware of this, which is I think this is a meme inspired by a game of Nodes, right? Which is a DAO for the chains as they die. So speaking of which,
Mm-hmm.
it's not dead, but there was something about Joe chain as well, right? In the last few days, that has completely blown over my head. I just saw people were arguing on Twitter about something.
Yeah. I'm not sure what happened there. I don't know if it's a joke or not, but I want to
Maybe
say
it's just a
Joe. I think it might be a joke. I think Joe was joking that the Joe chain halted, and then I want to say that he was joking that he blamed Notional. Like at the end of the tweet, he says, "Oh, and I blame Notional for this." And Jacob was having absolutely none of it.
But
he came out swinging, and then he put out a big old post about how like he has to take accusations like this seriously. And I don't know, but I don't know. I have nothing to say.
Is there an actual? I mean, that website is gone because it used to be like Just Joe or something like that. Is that what it was? JustJoe.app, I think.
Yeah, something like that.
That website's gone. He says it's halting, but I'm not sure. Is he? I don't know.
Maybe
It'd be a
they
weird
just-
thing to say.
Maybe they're just halting it before somebody IBCs it and they get done for money laundering.
No
I
shit.
thought that they had already IBC'd it. I thought there was someone like JunoSwap or something.
Oh yeah, we talked about this a little bit in Denver, right? Yeah, like maybe this guy, maybe his attorney and or accountant kind of stepped in and be like, "Do you know exactly what this means that you have a token in your name with some sort of IBC value on it? Are you aware? And how many of those do you own?"
Yeah.
Like,
Fuck.
that might not be a
Fuck.
great position to be in.
Right.
But there you go. Rama's in the chat saying Potmos has like 60% of the supply staked, so he can hold it on his own. So presumably, there's actually some kind of in joke here going on with Potmos.
Okay.
One must assume. I haven't done my research because I've not been at the computer. Other than it's not obviously related to Cosmos, but we've been doing some stuff on Aptos, which has been pretty stressful. I've got to ask, is that a Hacko soldering iron on your desk, usurper?
Yeah, it is.
Is it an FX 8888?
That I don't know.
Temperature controlled.
It is definitely temperature control. I'll get you a model number while we're sitting
It's the
here
good
because
I just had a sudden moment of recognition.
You did.
It's been bugging me for I don't know how long. I was just like, that thing looks super familiar, like a thing that I own and not so much enjoy, but I respect.
It is a FX 888D 23BY.
Is it sad that I got the model number? I don't own the exact model number, but I respect the shit out of that model number. Yeah.
Oh my goodness!
Oh dear, it's
so
a funny thing. Sleep deprivation. So,
I mean, back to the Joe Chain thing. To be honest, even if we were not for 2 weeks, we wouldn't give a shit about this topic anyway.
No, yeah. I mean it is a chain to test out features. I mean, at the end of the day, I think it basically is a meme where the meme is that Reese wanted to get better at doing chain development.
Mm-hmm.
And so did a bunch of stuff on JChain and used it as a learning platform and launched it as a joke, and it's still live.
Yeah.
And I don't know how much Reese is actually like super. I mean, I don't know. We've had Reese on the show before. We could ask him again. Like, are you like still super jazzed that Joe is a thing, or are you beginning to be like,
shit?
Yeah.
Well,
exactly.
I think there was a lot of drama with it with Notional before because I think it was a fork of the Eve chain that Notional was building. So I think that might be where part of it's coming from, where because of that drama, they started winding it down.
Yeah, well, maybe I don't know because Eve was just a fork of Juno with YOLO'd features in basically.
Right.
Yes.
And
with the YOLO'd features.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's basically just like YOLO and a bunch of features, and if the chain crashes or it's unstable, well, it doesn't have the market cap of Juno, so who cares, right?
Right.
And then I think Reese was working for Notional, and then he wasn't working for Notional, and he was just like, oh well, I think he did a fair bit of the actual work, and so he was just like, well, I'm just gonna fork it.
Mm-hmm.
And YOLO is Joe Chain, and then it was just like, oh, actually, well, you can just work on Juno, and we can just instead YOLO features onto a test net, and then that if it crashes, that's a test net, and if they work, then we can just put them into production, and that's another way of doing it. And so that's I think basically what happened there. But there kind of seems to be like an ongoing sort of beef in some a bi-directional beef in that area, isn't there? But doesn't really seem worth getting into.
There was
just said that there's an explanation of Joe Chain in the README on GitHub, and so I posted it in the chat. You can read it. It does have to do with Notional and like the story behind how Joe Chain became a thing.
There was some cool. I do like we talked about this before, but the idea of like creating something that can be a fuck around chain and try some new things and something else that has no monetary structure to it. It should never been IBC. I don't understand that piece, but because I think one of the ones that I commented on a little bit ago was like Reese was building it where you could only vote yes or no with veto. So they got rid of no and they got rid of abstain. I was like, actually, that's a pretty good idea for the Cosmos SDK. I kind of dig it. When you come, like you gotta when you bring a proposal, you gotta come correct, right? So either it is or it's gone. I kind of dig that. And I was asking him to make it where validators don't vote their stake, don't vote non-voting shares. To just make it to lower the quorum, like just make people vote their own bags, see what happens. I'm kind of interested to see what would happen with that. But so anyway, I'm not sure I don't really care about the Notional drama. I think the-frey locked up.
I think he's reading through the README right now.
I think he locked up.
Yeah. Okay.
So well, your response was basically where I was like, what can you do? Thanks for the heads up, Todd, on where to read about it, because that's kind of, I don't know if it makes it better or worse to know.
Yeah, I mean, TLDR is not worth getting into. Is would be from having actually read it all. It just seems like. Can I actually? Do you know what? It's this. Sorry for those on podcast players. I just made a sort of flapping, a hysterical flapping gesture.
I think that's really the only answer, though. That is the takeaway. It's like,
What you gonna do?
yeah.
And Rama just said hello, traveler in the chat. I wonder if that's a. So I don't know. I'm going to be the most scatty I probably will ever be. But I wonder if that's a reference to folk. Have you ever seen any of Limmy's show? It's like it's kind of. It was sort of like a low budget Scottish comedy in like the early 2010s, and there's this great sketch where it's like one of those old phone in to the TV adventure things where they're just basically trying to keep the person on the line so that it costs them money. And there's this guy with like a really shit beard on called Falconhoof. People call in. He's like, "Hello, traveler." It's a great sketch, and it just has because like a bunch of the sketches, obviously, because it's set in Scotland. Like he's like, "Hello, traveler. Would you like to come on an adventure?" And there's just like an irate Glaswegian mother being like, "My son called this line, and he cost £30." And then it's just very funny. It's a very funny sketch. Look it up. Let me show Falconhoof. Look up Falconhoof. That's
I feel like this is a case of where Occam's razor is the right answer. Noel pops in, says hi, so Rama says hello, traveler, because Noel's in the US right now. I think that is the actual answer.
I'm just saying what I want to see. What can I tell you?
But that could also be it. but your answer could also be it.
Yeah, let's see how contrived we can make hello, traveler.
Yeah. So what other stuff? I know one other thing that I do know has happened is that obviously Core 1 on Juno has expanded, and myself and Maximilian, the legend, the Wombat, have joined Core 1, and what we've been doing recently is some. Okay, I want to say like I was about to say like it's like a corporate away day where we're doing trust exercises, and Wolf Contract is catching like Jack's just falling back and Wolf's catching him. And it's all that kind of stuff, except there is a little element of that. Like there's a little element of the of the Core 1 team going away to a spa day to work out like what the fuck to do with judo for the next year. And no. And there is actually like which is very, very well broadcast. There is actually now like a mission statement for Juno, which is kind of cool. And the way you know this is because it is the Twitter header of the Juno network on Twitter. But that's it's better than nothing. That's a start. There's a mission statement which is Juno is the interchain DAO hub. There you go. Single line mission statement.
Okay.
And
that's not really a mission statement. That's like a statement of fact, right?
It's a statement of fact. It's a statement of what the chain's about. It's a statement of all of it. And then there's a prioritization process going on. And this is kind of the fun thing, I guess, because from my perspective, I'm looking at this, and this is basically what the same type of consulting stuff you used to do with, like, you go into like a fucking bulk paper sales company, right? And they're like, we're getting murdered by people that buy their paper in bulk on Amazon. And you're like, okay, so I guess what you got to do is like hire a couple of developers, build a platform, streamline some of your back end processes, write some priorities for the next year, and then, refine your business practice. And then, hey, maybe you'll be profitable again. And that's kind of like, yeah, turns out it's the same stuff everywhere, right? It's all just operational stuff that's happening everywhere is the hard bit.
So away from all that, now that you're part of Core 1, tell me about like the dynamics. Bring us into the fold of the Juno Core 1 dynamics. And what's it been as a new member of a team that's existed for a long time that I'm sure has a lot of built-in opinions about direction and each other and those types of things? Like, have you felt like an outsider in a closed meeting, or have you felt like this group was waiting for some new viewpoints at a core 1 level.
Yeah, I think there's.
It's too spicy, or not? It's not too spicy, right?
Yeah, well, I guess they're being completely frank. I think there's the thing of like you're never going to fully be. I think the idea that core 1 is sub DAO is like basically fucking not true.
Okay.
It is in name only, but it's not, because it is recognized by people as being the founding team, right?
Yeah, sure.
And you know the reality is, like, people like me and Max, like we've been with Juno like pretty much since, you know, the project started, like, so like the Discord was launched and stuff, you know, like
Yep.
But we're not like founders, and there is fundamentally, there is always going to be a power imbalance as a result of that. And I think unless everybody from the founders left and it was all new people, you would always have that dynamic. And then you would probably have a similar dynamic where you would have people who have been there longer. And that's, you know, this is why you have fixed terms in office, right? This is why you have to have
Correct
turnover. This is why you have to have. So at the moment, it's basically like a board,
Yes.
albeit a slightly dysfunctional one.
Yeah.
Or has historically been dysfunctional. I think it's actually, like all groups of people who are trying to coordinate, from a bike club to core 1, they are more dysfunctional on the inside than the outside in some ways than you'd think, and they are less dysfunctional on the inside than they look on the outside in some ways, and they're not usually in the ways you expect, right? And it's always just interpersonal dynamics, and it's just the same with any group of people you find, you know, that's
right.
just
right.
You throw together 6 random people, which is essentially what happened, or 5 random people, and that's how you get into a position where obviously they're going to be weird dynamics between some people and stuff. And I think the interesting thing about it, I guess, is it's in its current form, it's more like a kind of advisory board, and I guess that's how I kind of see our involvement. And it's weird because I sort of see it from the company's perspective. This is just a thing. We've been asked to do it. Mm-hmm. We are there as a representative to do essentially what we normally do when we do corporate consulting, which is trying to push things along and and put structure around things and whatnot. And then I guess the biggest within, so there's 2 dynamics. There's one which is founders, and then there's new people, which is me and Max, and then there's a second dynamic which is devs and non-devs. So there's sort of Demi, Max, and Jack, who are more kind of developer-y to different extents as well. And then
wait, hold on. Max is a developer?
Who did I say? Did I say Jack? Although I might have said Max because they sound similar in words, or they both have an A in them, and I'm tired.
Okay, but not Max.
So Jack, Demi, and Jake both are all. Oh, did I say Max instead of Jake?
I think so. Anyway,
I'm just so tired. But those 3 are like primarily devs, and then
plus
Block
you
and Wolf are primarily sort of marketing, community focused. And then what's happened with new people coming in is, like, again, Max is kind of more marketing, community, and I guess the thing is, actually, Max has always been he's very good at like tokenomics and strategy and all that kind of things. He has like a really strong understanding, but also like a really strong intuition for how all of that works and should work. Mm-hmm. So, which, you know, to be fair, like Wolf, I guess, did a lot of the tokenomics and stuff like that. So maybe that's the thing that Max and Wolf have in common. So there's a few different, like, I guess, pockets of interest. And then there's obviously, like, you know, obviously me and Jake, like I fucking rip the shit out of him all the time for the DAOs thing. But like, obviously I think DAOs are important. And like, mm-hmm. I'm just not a maximalist. I'm not a maximalist about anything in my life, really. You know what I mean? I think they have a really useful use case in a really specific set of circumstances, which is exciting and interesting to talk about and work on, but
not the solution for everything. Right. Yeah. Right.
Yeah. Same as blockchain, same as anything.
Yeah. Right. Right.
You know, there's very few things in life that are black and white, good or bad, or you should be maximalist about. You know, even like you buy a fucking Korg monopoly, right? You're not going to put it on every track you write. You're going to, at some point, you're going to get bored of that synthesizer, and you're going to be like, I might need a different flavor now, a different flavor of 80s synthesis.
Not the first acronym or idea that I would have used in that situation, but I understand what you're saying.
I was just I'm looking out of shot at a synthesizer, and so for some reason I was reminded of the excellent default first preset on the, well, it's not really a preset because it's kind of pre-presets, but like the absolute stock monopoly sound that everybody sets up the first time they get their hands on one. I wish I owned one, but I just totally can't afford one and can't justify affording one, because I would just put it on this one sound and be like, and then I get bored of it, and I'd be like, why did I spend $3,000 on a synthesizer for one sound that I could just do with a plugin? That's insane.
Are there any term limits on Core One now, or that's not going to happen, or is it?
No, I think. Well, I think
is it just going to continue to grow as?
Yeah, I think it's kind of the opposite problem where, like, so one of the interesting things about the structure of Core One from the beginning was about trying to incentivize the people to stay around and actually not rug Juno, essentially.
Right. Yeah.
There is no incentive mechanism in place at present of any kind for new people. And it's not really clear how that would work either, because long vestings and stuff, and also like the tokenomics themselves, like there's a lot of questions. And there's also questions about like how this is the same as the teams funding questions that we've had in the past and stuff. Like it's all part and parcel of the same thing, which is that it's very easy to find the money to fund things when prices are high. It's very hard to work out how to fund things when prices are down. And it's also, you're always kind of working around the fact that you're pricing in risk for the people involved.
Sure.
But the idea that it can expand forever is obviously not true. And I guess at some point people will have to come and go. Mm-hmm. And yeah, it will be interesting to see how that develops. I mean, I think I suspect it will end up being something like a by-election where, if somebody secedes or is asked to secede, then there's an election triggered for that place. But I don't think we're really in a sophisticated enough place yet where we can sustain an actual functional election. Like, elections are obviously popularity contests, but they are even more so in this space.
Sure.
I think.
Yeah.
They're either a popularity contest or they're nepotism, basically. And, let's be brutally honest about this. Max is there on Core One now because of popularity, because he is incredibly strong advocate for the community, is incredibly visible, is amazing at what he does. And I'm there because of nepotism, because I'm fundamentally well known not by members of the community. If anything, the one reputation we have there is actually quite negative because of Prop 16.
Yeah.
But obviously with the validator team, with the dev team, with everybody around, like we're very well known for our contributions as a company, and I'm very well known individually within the Juno thing. But are we even the right people to be on Core One? That's another story. It's an interesting. I guess it's like the thing of like, everything we're doing right now is just fucking throwing stuff at the wall and seeing what sticks. Like we can put as much process around it as we want, but that's still kind of where Core One is at, and that's where Juno is at. But I guess that's part of this, to take it back to the thing that we've decided, which is that, Juno is the interchain DAO hub, is to go like, Juno is a DAO, DAO is the main blue chip on Juno. Take that as given. Where do we go from there? That's the decision. That's the decision Core One's made. Insofar as like we have any real say in kind of pointing to a direction. And that's kind of, okay, cool. Right. What do we do with that information?
Right. Like what? Yeah. Good point. So is that what the decision was? I don't know if I really heard that before. So the interchain DAO hub, meaning what about other applications that are trying to launch and other types of things that are sitting on top of Juno? Is it not about permissionless Cosmosm?
Well, I guess the point is that like permissionless Cosmosm isn't a differentiator, but what is the differentiator for Juno? It's the community that's built around it, and it's the tooling that has actually emerged on it, which is primarily about. See, this is the kind of because this is a technical podcast. It's mainly validators, mainly developers that listen to this. So I think when we talk about governance, what we're really talking about is how you manage incentive systems. We're talking about voting. We're talking about managing treasuries. We're talking about, so at the moment, I'll get on to this in a minute, but like, I'm writing some stuff for HowDAO to essentially like secure the treasury. It has a similar mechanism to something like the Unity contract, where there's an overrider sub DAO. There's like an overrider group of people who can veto decisions, essentially pull decisions back where they involve moving large amounts of funds, right?
Yeah.
And it's just proof of concept. It needs some more development. But WinDAO have a similar thing where you can propose a contract, but you can propose a thing in their DAO, but you can't execute it, and their developer multisig has to actually hit the execute button. So there's a whole bunch of like quite interesting things like around that, which are really about building organizational structures in a trustless environment, right? It's about nerds on the internet, right? Organizing nerds on the internet, back to the thing. And it, if it's, for me, the interesting thing about all this experiment has always been like building incentive systems. It's like, okay, cool, build an incentive system. You now need to manage the system that you've built. Okay, you're gonna need a DAO. Like it might be a DAO of 5 people, it might be a DAO of 3 people.
Right.
You're gonna need a DAO. And the problem is the name DAO is kind of lame, but like at some point you quickly see you need something like a DAO. You need a multisig, you need a DAO. And that tooling has to come from somewhere. And DAO is just the best current DAO tooling anywhere.
Agreed.
In crypto.
Yeah, agreed.
And so like by definition, it is the best blue chip on Juno. Now, is it going to pump anybody's bags? Is it fuck? So that is that then, but once you say, okay, home of DAO, interchain DAO hub, that is what Juno is. It's community is DAOs. Do ordinary people give a shit about DAOs? Developers give a shit about DAOs. People running large projects understand the value. Do ordinary people give a shit about them? No. Right. So then the next thing becomes, how can you make another project, or how can you encourage the devs that would want to build with DAOs and build interesting new synergetic products to come and build on Juno and build the thing that the average user would give a shit about? And maybe that average user doesn't even want to fucking hear the word DAO. They don't give a fuck about DAO.
It doesn't matter, right? That's just how the sausage is made. It
just so happens that the thing they want to use has to have a DAO at its heart, because of course it does.
Right.
And that was kind of like the whole thing with Howl. Is like we were obviously very close to DAO. We were close to a lot of other things that we wanted to do, and it just links them all together. It's like NFTs and DAOs and posting stuff and content and blogs and whatever.
Yeah.
Like it just all kind of goes like, oh yeah, this is kind of the intersection of all of these things result in you sign a multi-sig transaction and you post some content.
Yeah.
It's like
well, I mean, there's other ways to think about it as well from a developer perspective. Like if you want to build a website, arguably one of the best things you can use is Django, which is a framework for Python programmers. And the main reason to use Django is because they have a lot of built-in tools around database management, right? And DAO is kind of the same way in that the way you have to frame it, the usefulness of it isn't something you would think commonly. You wouldn't think going to Django is the best thing offhand, like as the average developer, because of its database management and it's like admin panels, all that built-in stuff. But that's the reality. The reality is it's just that one level deeper where once you have experience and you've kind of hit these problems yourself, you realize, oh, I actually don't want to do any of this. I can offload it over there.
Sure.
That's the beauty.
Yeah, I mean, that's the kind of thing with it, is it's not so much like it's not constricting the framework of the thing you build. It just gives you an API. So you go, I don't have to write a fucking DAO contract so that our project can have a DAO. I don't have to write a sub DAO contract so that I can write an escrow contract that can protect the treasury of our DAO. I don't have to, like, all these other things. You can just go like, okay, well, there'll be a sub DAO. It will have a contract address. So I can make this thing over here that takes a contract as its admin. And I can just write a contract with the assumption that I have DAO, I have sub DAOs. I can figure that out later. And it's that kind of stuff where you're like trying to actually administer how all of that works. And again, like, it's also so early. You're just like, so much of this is just like, it's still quite hypothetical. Like to launch Howl, we have, because it's completely controlled by a multi-sig DAO, we had to just like actually do all of the contract deployments and all the code and everything, like the uploads and everything via DAO. And there is a moment where you are like, okay, this is crazy fucking future technology. We're literally just managing software via cryptographically signed transactions with ledgers. And there's 3 of us in 3 different time zones signing off on this to get it launched. That's fucking nuts. And then you get it launched and you're like, oh, that's really cool. Okay, but yeah, nobody's actually going to, there isn't a mass market app that's going to launch this way or do this for fucking years,
right?
Because we're just so early. Like, but I think that is the interesting question, though, is how you actually turn what is a really cool set of tooling for nerds and developers who want to build serious products into something that serious developers look at and they go, oh fuck, I have to build there because actually I don't really want to fucking manage this shit myself.
Yeah.
And more broadly speaking, also this ties into the IBC thing, because the more IBC tooling you build around Juno and around DAO and around all this other stuff, you know, you can build on your own chain or whatever, but it's also part of that. So you said, Serp, like, how does this tie into the permissionless cosmosm thing? Well, the permissionless cosmosm thing has always been like, build your project on Juno, spin up your own app chain later. Like, that's the app chain thesis, right?
Yeah.
So if you go, well, we're going to be an incubator, like the IBC maximalism thing comes like quite naturally. And again, most of these projects need DAO to manage how stuff kind of works. Like, that's something what we found building a non-trivial product. And you go, okay, well, if we were going to launch the first version of it, as we did, we launched it on Juno. If that were wildly successful and we launched an app chain, it's not like we would move the DAO. We would want to probably just interact with it over IBC from another chain, because you've got all of your stuff is kind of set up over there. You're not going to be like, oh, I'm just going to turn all that shit off. It's kind of unlikely, is it? So there's also like an element here where by making one decision, you kind of go, okay, well, it also means we have to work out the IBC middleware story. We have to work out all of that side of things to make that thing work better. And again, it's like projecting forward quite a period of time, because it's just a long way away, you know, like whichever way you kind of look at it, I suppose. And then like, I suppose other things fall out of that, like mesh security and stuff like that too, where you're just like, again, it's about how do you ensure that value is coming back to Juno as an incubator, I suppose. And it's not fully worked out. Like nothing is at this point. But yeah, I don't know.
Is there anybody on the Core One team that's like singly, or is there a group that's singularly focused on monetization?
On monetization of the Juno token?
Of monetization of the mission. Like there's a lot, like everything we just talked about, and also most of these DAOs are about like spending. Like they're all about, you know, growth funds or this or that, and finding ways to be able to dump community tokens and, you know, basically paying for users, other types of things. But like that example there, is there anyone responsible to say, it seems like sometimes we build just to build and we don't have a singular vision in terms of who wants to buy, whether that be chains within the Cosmos or, like you said, maybe things that are outside that might come forward. Like, is anybody thinking that way to say, okay, we have this great tooling. How do we make sure that we're aligning all of these decisions and this backlog of cool things that we can do to someone who's willing to pay for it?
I don't think that exists currently.
Yeah.
And I think one of the biggest I think it's something, certainly something that Max advocates for and has always advocated for. So I think historically, I don't think I would argue that that's the thing that was thought about. I think it's build it and they'll come attitude.
Yeah.
Which is just, crypto has investors, it doesn't have users. It's back to the thing we always talk about on this podcast. Until crypto has users, or not even crypto, until interchain applications with use cases have users and not investors, that is moot. And, you know, really it's that thing of, well, it's like having 10 or 15 decent quality protocols that are all bringing in a small amount of consistent user base and liquidity. Like the idea of, like, you know, these crazy pump and dumps and stuff, like that's just not how the future is going to be. The most useful thing crypto can do is microtransactions. Like it's just going to be like 100,000 users, 200,000 users transacting very small amounts and then having to swap in and out of the native token. That's to me, that seems like one of the most obvious things that you can do with crypto. And that's why I'm so like, you need to find use cases that are not like, that are just bankable. They just solve a problem for people and they just interact with it and generate a small fee each time. And it's not gas fees because that shit doesn't scale. It's like people actually spending money into an economic mechanism,
right? That
has some kind of go around, like, you know, I don't think, I think like I say, I think Howl is like a proof of concept more than it's a thought experiment fleshed out, put out into the wild, but it has all of the hallmarks of what I personally believe you need to do that thing. Which is have a internal logic behind a cash flow, have a link back out to the sustaining platform, have like those incentive feeds in it and stuff, and have like a clear user, like, I want to do X, I can do it here. Here's how I do it. I can bring in my NFT from over here. I can do, it's all of those things like kind of in synergy. And then, and DAO is required to do this and blah, 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 blah.
Right.
That's, it's like to me anyway, maybe it looks incoherent to other people, but I think it's a coherent product picture. And I think it's part, I use the example over and again, not because it's something that obviously is near and dear to my heart, having spent a lot of time working on it, but I think because that's the kind of protocol we need to build around DAO is try and find ideas like that until one of them sticks, like something that works synergistically with this like best in class DAO tooling that brings users, and then market the shit out of it. That's kind of my perspective. But then, I'm a product, I've come up from like the product engineering style of like the last 10 years of engineering, where everybody's just like, oh, it's not about being smart. It's about finding the right product and market fit and shit. And, I'm just getting told that, you don't have to use functional programming. It doesn't matter that it's better. Just write it in JavaScript. It's fine.
Just get it done.
Just get it done. Just ship it. It's fine. Then a year later, it's just like, it's falling over. It's fine. It's just,
all right, we can rewrite it.
It's on fire. You've got to rewrite it. It's fine.
That's right.
I think the one thing we're really missing right now, like I was using HAL for a little bit, right? But I made the poor choice of using my Ledger wallet as my HAL wallet. And so everything I had to do, I had to sign, right?
Yep.
And that sucked. I think that one thing we need to figure out some method for is like giving a browser some form of like auth-z access where the browser has a certain amount that it can use as like discretionary spending. So you can still hit, just send, and it doesn't require you to actually like double click to confirm or to hit the ledger or something. I feel like there has to be some way of bridging that gap of like some types of transactions you're giving the browser to just do. Like maybe not even just a transaction, but maybe like, I don't know. That's the only thing I can think of right now as my example.
Weaver from HAL did a proof of concept, something like that, where you essentially you basically pre-auth and escrow a small amount of funds. So again, it's the microtransaction use case. It's gas fees use case. You basically just like go, boom, okay, here's like a third of a Juno, done. And then when you then interact with it again, you're basically interacting from memory of how it was, something like this. You then interact with that contract. So it's kind of just like, oh, okay, boom, okay, oh, it's just done the thing. Okay, cool. And I think you probably still needed to go. I think the only thing is you probably still needed to go through a ledger because you had to sign the transaction from memory. But I can't remember. Like it was pretty smooth. So maybe it was actually some kind of switcheroo involved. It's so long ago. This was like, I don't know, last summer, maybe earlier. They just showed something because they were just like mucking around with like BB posts basically, and they were like, oh, okay, you could do this. It's pretty cool. I think the code's still on GitHub somewhere. Can't remember if it's in HAL's GitHub or if it's in Weaver's GitHub, but
I mean, that's a cool idea. You sometimes do that when you do cloud things where you prepay, let's say $100 or whatever, and then they suck that dry as you put server costs up. It's the same idea.
That's how Akash worked, isn't it?
Yeah, that's how Akash works. Yeah, exactly.
You I
think that's
in there, didn't I?
Well, yeah, I guess yeah. But I think that type of use case is absolutely necessary. I think that there is too much expectation that in the crypto space in general, that every action you take requires like a full execution. Like it's objectively true that is a bad user experience. There's a reason why in most like settings things you change, they only take it like at the very end or whatever, or you don't even have to hit accept for it because people don't want to have to hit that many buttons. That's why there's such an argument of like iPhone versus Android, which one's easier based off of how many like interactions it takes to, I don't know, open up Google Maps or something. Right. So like that it's just such a small thing that like obviously it makes sense that each transaction or each interaction requires a full acceptance because, potentially some people have, hundreds of thousands or millions of dollars in their account. They don't want to suck it dry. But there's got to be an in-between. There's got to be an in-between.
Yeah, probably. I mean, I guess it all comes back to like what is an account? What are the levels of escalation that are required to do? I mean, if you have like, so like maybe a good example is like if you have a bank account, you can have like I don't know what you guys call it in the US, checking account, whatever. You can have
Yeah.
like you basically can have like a cash card, which is like a debit card, and
Hmm.
then you can have like a credit card, and then
Yeah.
and actually, and also every bank account actually has a limit as well. It's just that it's usually quite like relatively high. So I don't know, probably like a couple of $1,000. I don't know how many £1,000 or dollars it is before your bank calls you up and goes, "We've blocked this transaction. You need to authorize it properly." But it's a few $1,000s, isn't it? If you've ever had to try and buy a car or something, I feel like that's the sort of thing where you need to do like a bank transfer in branch or something like that. Um, so yeah, like even within traditional banking, there is like an implicit escalation or contactless, right? Contactless was it used to be £25, and then they upped it to 100, I think. But most banks allow you to set a level you're happy with against your card, um, so you can you actually have user controls there over what is effectively what you're describing, Schultzy. Like if it's above £50, then you got to sign the transaction. If it's below whatever. But I mean, the flip side of that is like, would you want to be the person who implemented that bit of code? If it's below X amount of X denomination, then
Yeah.
that would need one hell of an audit.
Yeah. Well, and dude, I think we'd also need some level of notification system at that point. Right now, if I send a transaction on Kepler, you don't get a notification for it. There needs to be some sort of aggregate of, okay, so I've got this thing set up so that something like I can just hit go and it'll take out 1 June or whatever. But if something doesn't happen, then I can be notified somehow. Because that I think there should be some level of like not a central location, but there should be like maybe built into wallets. But that's also something I've been thinking about with the whole Venmo thing I've been thinking about building, where like if someone sends you a request, then like you need to be able to find out how somehow without actually creating like a bot that monitors the chain. But God, user
Well,
experience things are so difficult.
well, I
That's
think
why I'm a
you.
backend engineer.
Well, I think you've also hit on something, which is like at the end of the you can't stay away.
Welcome, welcome.
Oh
Where are
shit.
you?
Okay.
All right.
At the end of the day, like most successful like use cases that use the interchain that aren't so the DAOs is an interesting one, right? Because it could literally be a group of nerds on the internet who are completely across jurisdictions and will never meet each other, right? It's like you can have like totally pure online interactions that are completely novel, that just didn't exist 10 years ago, didn't exist 15 years ago. Well, did exist because they were IRC channels back then, but like they have a new expression, right? But then there's all these other use cases where it's just like, oh, it's basically a Web 2 company, but it would make more sense to model their business as an incentive model, like you're describing, like Venmo, like the thing that Peter Sunday did after Pirate Bay, Flatter, where it's micropayments to content, where you just hit a little micropayment button on a piece of content you liked on the internet. It was just a little embed. It didn't work because the banks, it's really, really expensive to do micropayments. But that is an amazing crypto use case right there and way ahead of his time. Flatter would work as crypto. But do you give a shit that it's a blockchain? No, that's just that is just how it's implemented. The majority of that code base is a web server serving the embed and then a WebSocket notification. So it's kind of like to your point where you're like, okay, well, we need notifications, we need all this other stuff. You're like, well, a lot of these actually potentially quite successful use cases which can now be built with blockchain that couldn't have been built 10 years ago, a lot of them will be not blockchain for their users. They won't see it as blockchain. And the actual blockchain component, that maybe there's a smart contract there somewhere, but the majority of their stack will also not be blockchain. It will be a WebSocket client. It will be a web server serving an embed. It will be, some kind of streaming store just reconciling the messages. But at some point, there's a smart contract in there. But who gives a shit? But this is why, like, I'm just not. Again, I'm not shitty about central bank digital currencies for the same reason, because it's like, who gives a shit what the micropayments in? The interesting thing is the blockchain, right? Is the technology, and maybe IBC as well.
Well, yeah. I mean, it's very rare that I learned that a certain like app that I'm using has a specific database, and I'm like, wow, if I'm using Lyft and I find, well, okay, if I'm using Lyft and I find out it's running on like MongoDB, I'll be a little surprised. I'd be like, well, that thing is scaled pretty well. All right, well done. Or SQLite or something. But like, that's such a thing. Like, if I hear something,
SQLite 3, are you kidding?
exactly. Yeah, if I hear things on Postgres, I'm like, I don't care. And it should be the same thing with blockchain. It should be, I don't care. It's just the database. Like, yeah, it enables all sorts of cool things, but for the end user, do not care. I do not care.
I felt that way about challenger banks. Like, so I did a lot of stuff on like data engineering. Like, I've had built a lot of my backgrounds and that sort of stuff. Like, streaming data stores where you can basically just mash through millions of transactions a second and then just store them all in Cassandra and then happy days. Like, it's so much faster than any other database technology, and it's just like, it's magic. If you've ever have to deal with that kind of volume, you're like, oh my god, this is really quick, and you get like snappy finality and everything, and it settles, and it's what the fuck, like, and you're like, you see how slow like banks were like 10 years ago at this stuff, and then like things like Monzo, like a challenger bank, you're like, fuck, it's really, the UX is great. Like, you literally pay somebody and their phone pings next to you, it's like, you've been paid and the transaction's settled, and you're like, and you go like look at their job ads and you're like, fucking Apache Kafka, Apache Cassandra, and you're like you say, it's one of those times when you're like, I am actually a little bit impressed at your technology stack in 2014 or whatever that was.
Yeah. But
Whereas now, if you were like, I'm building a challenger bank, people would be like, oh, right, so you can use a streaming store in a database, right? Yeah, of course you are, because that is the correct way to build this thing. And like, maybe in 10 years, that will be the case. It'd be like, we're building this thing. Oh, is that a ledger underneath it? And yeah, of course it's a ledger. Duh.
exactly. Yeah, we're just not quite to that point yet. But that's the thing, right? It's like there's so many tech questions and tech answers, and a lot of us are so enthusiastic that we're willing to like squint away the shitty user experience side of things. Like using a ledger, I like my ledger. Like, it's got cool stickers on it and stuff. Like, come on now.
But not for everything.
Let's be real.
One
Like,
because says that his password is 0000.
yeah. But let's be real.
8 zeros.
Most people don't want to spend $180 or $160, whatever I spent on my Ledger Nano X, just to hold crypto. Like, I don't have $180 wallet for my credit cards and stuff. And like, I guarantee you my credit limit in that wallet is higher than all the crypto I have. So it's like there's so many user experience
That's only because the bear market is not your fault, Schultz. You are better than that. You are better than that. Like, I hate to tell you as a friend, you are better. It's not your fault.
Yeah, exactly.
But
also, like, you go to a store and you bust out your wallet one time at the very end, right? You bust it out one time versus, oh, I want to go make a swap on Osmosis. Let's transfer the Juno. So that's one transaction, just to do IBC over. Let's do the swap, and then let's perhaps IBC out the Atom and then send it to Coinbase. So 4 transactions to like get money out or something, right? It's just a completely different thing.
Would you remember like early days? No, not super early days, but early-ish days of Bitcoin when you could just transfer Bitcoin via the mobile app with the QR codes? Like, you created a wallet on Green Wallet or something like that, and you were like, you showed somebody a thing, you approved it, and it was like, bam. Like, friend O the show. I'm pretty sure this was actually Ben Davis, friend O the show. So I mentioned Monzo earlier, challenger bank, kind of archetypal, making the UX and stuff good. Everything went contactless with them straight away. It was just like tap, you paid, happy days, amazing. One of the founders was a Bitcoin maxi. It was like a stealth Bitcoin maxi, and like the first time I used Monzo, I was like, this is the first time I've used a bank where it feels like that. Because obviously the problem with Bitcoin is it's super slick until you're like, oh, the money hasn't arrived yet. And there's like, even in 2011, 2012, it was like, oh yeah, it needs like 8, what's it called? Like confirmations. You're like, oh, okay. Yeah. So it's so close to perfect. But it turned out that there were people watching that and were like, wow, this is really good, except that what people want to see is sub-second finality. And they went, shit, I could do that with Apache Cassandra. Like, well, you just give people a QR code and they will fucking sign up in droves. Okay, cool. I'm going to go get our bank license. They did it. That bank is Monzo. It's a fucking $1 billion business.
That's funny.
And like, yeah, it turned out that guy is, I'm pretty sure he's like a stealth Bitcoin maxi or something like that. I was having this conversation with somebody and they were like, I'm pretty sure it was Ben Davis, friend of the show, who like went and did the research and was like, oh yeah, they totally were. It's like,
wow.
There you go. Makes sense. So you're right. Like, UX is everything, man. Like,
going back to the DAO thing, that's exactly what I was trying to say before. Is it's tough to just randomly keep adding shit until you have a clear direction on some of these UX pieces. And I think it's easier for DAO than it is for Howl. Howl, from a consumer perspective, you have a lot of voices, but DAO really is like you're really, I mean, you're marketing to consumers, like individuals as well. You're primarily marketing to chains or organizations or other types of larger groups that already have they have a management problem, right? They have an organization and communication and voting problem. And I think even spending some time to identify who those possibly could be, whether they're in the Cosmos or out, and then coming up with a list of like how do you guys deal with this? What are the challenges? Like a little bit of ideation there, and then come back and build a little bit like a roadmap towards that. I do think that if you just keep adding shit, like Jake and I were talking about this actually at eth.denver a little bit, is there's so much there, and it's so wide open that it makes it very difficult to take this massive amount of functionality and apply it to the problems that they have. And like how do you, he's like, yeah, we want to create like a DAO how-to and those types of things. I'm like, that's somewhat beneficial, but like some repeatable patterns, right? And actually going back to Schultz's Drupal example, really what this is almost like Drupal themes. Like you need like DAO themes. You need to have pre-built kind of themes for, here's a large organization that has a board problem. Here's an individual who wants to figure out voting for you need Clippy for like
you should make Jake as like Clippy. It looks
for like a condo association, right? The other thing I thought about this too is like I was talking to the guys from Loyal. We had Mike Waters he's been on like, or I forget what his actual name is, but Mike's been on. He's been in the chat here, and like they're building like a structure for loyalty rewards that eventually might have value, and you can like buy from multiple sites and then use those loyalty rewards across multiple sites. So right now they're not doing any of that. Like they have it where each individual site, if you buy something out of an individual site, you get you get LYL behind the scenes, and so they're actually creating wallets behind the scenes. On the API side, so from the end user perspective, all they have is a login to a website, right? For the piece. Then behind the scenes, they're actually creating a mnemonic behind the scenes. They are applying those loyals after like 31 days to get outside the return period because they can't pull them out, and then it sits in the wallet. Then downstream, so what they're doing is like as people are buying this stuff, or as they're buying off these e-com sites, they're basically creating these hidden wallets of this stuff. So if you go back to the site, you can see you have them. You can apply them. You can use those tokens. Or discount and the next time you purchase something, et cetera, et cetera. And then downstream, what they're like thinking about is like, as this grows, how do we turn this Web 2 Web 2 problem that has a Web 3 component to it today, but it's hidden into something that maybe now you can use them across site and you can build a market around them and like all those other types of things. And so they're kind of like stealth mode where people are using this, but they're not really sure. Like this same thing, that same idea you could apply to DAO. Like, I don't need a wallet. Like the wallet piece is maybe for me because I'm an experienced user. But if I want to build a condo association that has everybody just logs in with their Gmail account or whatever the hell it is, but behind the scenes you're creating mnemonics and you have it in DAO and like there's voting there and there's like the structure and I can present that in a way that is extremely easy for the user. Totally works. Like. And then maybe down the stream, maybe those individuals can, they're only DAO tokens, right? So they can get those mnemonics, they can do other things with them, or they can, I don't know, whatever the hell they want to do. But like, this is a good there's might be opportunities because this user experience piece that Schultz is talking about is exactly right. Like, how do you get everybody who's going to use that into this Web3 world or walk around with ledgers to vote on stuff? Like, maybe that never happens, but maybe in some pieces, the technology can still be extremely useful, even though we might have to have a bridge before people are actually walking around with a ledger attached to their belt buckle.
Everything you described then just sounded like custodial keys, right?
Yeah, it's exactly what it is. Yeah, it's totally what it is.
I was just like the regulation alarm. It's just
why? I'm talking about DAO tokens have no value. There's no regulation here. There's no securities here. Same thing same thing I was talking about with Loyal. Like those things are there's custodial keys. I'm just using as a function to be able to do it. But if you sit around until that world gets here, we're all long gone. Like it's like that, like to be able to use it like as a Fortune 5 organization is going to use it with shareholders to be able to vote on a DAO, like for board members through with a ledger. Like, is that going to happen in our lifetimes? Like, I don't know.
Yeah, forget about it.
No, but see, fucking one comment and he builds out.
Bugmaster.
You made him upset.
It's actually it's actually cold as shit out here.
Where are you?
Are
Yeah,
you?
where are you?
Streets of Denver. I'm like outside. I'm at a cafe entrance, so it's like people like walking in and out, but the music's inside, so I couldn't really talk in there. So it's like fucking 0 degrees out here, and yeah, interesting.
Somehow it's better with the Australians shoved in zero degree. Usually you're coming from like a beach or something.
Yeah, this is not a safari.
He looks really uncomfortable.
He does. I know.
Like really uncomfortable.
Yeah, I'm literally gonna bail in a second. I just like got in the way of someone's pram. They're like, "How do I get this fucking thing around you?" So yeah, I don't know. I might go back to Union Station and I don't know, explode.
You're training out today, or what are you training out?
Trains at 7
Oh,
to
okay,
Chicago.
go
Oh, you go
To
to
Chicago. Neat.
Yeah, going to Chicago and then spend a few days in Chicago and then go to New Orleans and then go along that southern area back over to LA.
Are you training down to New Orleans, or are you flying?
I got an Amtrak pass, man. Just
Oh,
like ripping
sick.
on trains everywhere.
I'm so jealous. I really want to do the Southern Chief.
Yeah, it's I'm going to be on it. So,
Well,
but no sleeper. I'm
jealous.
doing it. I'm sitting on that fucking thing.
Although you're missing. You're not in sleep. The sleep is fucking awesome.
A sleeper is like literally like a leg, like from Denver to Chicago. A sleep is like $1,600.
Yeah, you need to book that shit way in advance. It's not expensive. It's not too bad.
I almost went on the the national parks vacation tour on Amtrak, which is like
the one where you do the glacier builder.
Yeah, you go like it's all the national parks on the western side in the west, and
That's basically where the national parks are.
yeah, but it was like $5,500 at short notice, which is like
I don't know if the price has gone up. That's a fucking lot more than I paid to buy a few Amtrak passes.
Well, it was $500 for a 10 segment pass, but yeah, it was like $5,500 for this 9 days, and I was like, yeah, I'm not baller, so fuck that.
I mean, the sad thing is you are missing probably. I've obviously not done the other ones. I'm sure they're really fucking sick, and I'm totally jealous. But like the Zephyr to California from Denver is like fucking cool.
That's what I'm getting on just soon. Yeah.
Wait, you going to California first? I thought you just said you were going to Chicago.
No, but it's the Zephyr line. Well, I'm not coming from California though. It's like Denver to.
Yeah, I'm saying if you go through the Rockies, go the other way because that's really fucking cool.
Yes, I'm not sure what the line's called, but there's another line that's just further south that goes all the way back across.
Yeah, the Southern Chief one.
Yeah, so I hope it goes to Austin. I want to go, or at least near Austin. So I want to go to Austin on the way back. But I'm really looking forward to getting some fucking barbecue, man.
Are you going to go up the West Coast from LA? Or are you flying out of LA?
No, so I'm flying out of LA. Yeah.
Okay. Well, that's the train chat segment of the show completed. I'm very, very jealous. I think
I can go now because I'm freezing my ass off.
Dude.
Well, enjoy the observation car.
Yeah, so I hear the cafe is like not popular, but it's the one with it's got like the glass,
the top?
glass roof.
Yeah,
so.
That's the place to be. Also, if it's really quiet, quite often the train guard will hang out there, and if they like know the line really well, like a couple of times the train guard was just like, "Hey, do you want to know the history of this place?" And you're like,
sure.
Yeah, why not? And they just like told stories, and it was like, "Oh, you're actually quite knowledgeable." And they're like, "Yeah, I'm a train guard on this train for 10 years, and I really fucking like local history and trains. Go figure." And you're like, "Yeah, okay, that does check out. That does check out." And they're like, "I can give you a reading list if you like." And you're like,
"Okay,
that's where I jump off." I'm actually not going to read about the Utah train system, but thank you very much. That is.
So before I bail here, I was photobombing people at East Denver, and I got in one there with Funky. So I think thanks, Funky. I'll treasure that photo bomb always as well. So anyway, guys, take it easy. I'm gonna go get in some warm area before I fucking die.
Safe travels, dude.
Cool. Have fun. Thanks for stopping in.
See ya.
So